welcome once again to the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center. My name's Diana, and I'm here with a very handsome creature that maybe you've visited us before and have met. This is Lurch, and he is our resident turkey vulture. He is always happy to join me for a talk or a walk, or a journey to some school or park or something to visit with folks. So he was excited to come out and visit today. Besides that, this morning it's starting to warm up here in southern Colorado, and the volunteers were out cleaning his enclosure and misting down the enclosure to keep it nice and cool, and Lurch actually hates to be sprayed with water, so he was most grateful for me to walk in and ask him to step up on my glove and leave the hose area. So he's very happy to be out and about today. Lurch, of course, as a turkey vulture, is a common species throughout North America. They're especially common in the Pueblo area. In the summer months we see them. They are a migratory bird, which means they're here in the warm season, so April through October, and then they do migrate down into South and Central America for the winter, and of course return to us once again in the spring. Now Lurch, being a vulture, is kind of an oddball in the bird of prey group. He is, like most birds of prey, he is a carnivore. He does eat animals, but instead of hunting and killing his prey, he is a scavenger. So he searches for something already deceased, and to help him do that, of course, he has some great tools. He has very large eyes that are engineered for wonderful vision to help him scan as he's flying. And that's what vultures do. Vultures spend most of their day soaring or gliding through the sky on their huge wings. Now Lurch has a huge set of wings, so I'm just going to step off to the side and I'm going to see if I can get Lurch to open for you. Could you open, Lurchy, and just show them? There we go. He's got this big set of wings. He's being very helpful this morning, and he uses those big, wide, rounded wings to help him glide on the warm air currents or thermals that are rising off of the earth. And vultures, when they soar, they're a little different than if you watch a hawk or an eagle or an osprey or something like that soaring. Vultures tend to soar with their wings not flat. Oh, hey, be nice. Not flat, but kind of in, I'm going to go back here so I don't get nipped, but in kind of in a V shape. So they're not flat out. He actually raises his wings in a shallow shaped V, and that's actually a really great adaptation for soaring, because what it does is it gives him this really cool angle to work the wind. So if the thermal's starting to fade, all he has to do is kind of cock himself to the side, and he kind of picks up a little bit of wind and then rebalances out. So they have a wonderful way of soaring. So while he is soaring about, he'll be searching the sky for signs of something dead, and that might be the animal itself laying along the highway. Maybe he sees other scavengers like crows, ravens, magpies, being very active together in a certain location. That might draw him in, hearing them calling, things like that. But also, turkey vultures have what scientists believe is a very good sense of smell. So it's highly possible that while he is up there soaring around on the thermals, he may pick up the scent of a deceased animal on the wind and then be able to navigate that scent back to, of course, the carcass, and that's where he's going to stop to feed. So he's a really cool bird. Vultures are very, very popular, and Lurch, especially here at the center, is one of our most popular birds, not just with us here at the center, but with the public as well. People, when I come to programs, people are like, "Did you bring Lurch?" And I'm like, "Well, of course I did. Who else would I bring with me? You know, forget that I have a golden eagle in the back. I have Lurch, a turkey vulture." So he's just really great. Well, Lurch has an obviously important job here at the center. Here at our Raptor Center, he is an educational ambassador. That means that he has, I'm not sure what he's looking at today. He's just such a character. Anyhow, that means his role is to be a teacher. He helps us teach the public all about birds of prey, and in his case, vultures. So he has a great job, but he's also a source of great entertainment for the staff and visitors. Obviously, he has a huge personality. He has great eyes. All the wisdom in the world is in there. He's just not sharing. Anyway, and he's just adorable, and we get a lot of fun, enjoyment hanging out with Lurch. Sometimes if you're having a bad day, you just go and hang with Lurch for a little bit, and he'll do something silly that will just get your heart to melt and feel a lot better about what's happening. But Lurch and I often have discussions, don't we, pal? Yep, we talk all the time. When Lurch first arrived, he's been with us now, I think 12, 13 years. But when he first arrived, he was having a little bit of trouble adjusting. So I felt bad for him. He wasn't making friends with the other turkey vulture in residence. They were kind of like at odds, and I just felt bad for him. So in the evening, I would go outside after everyone else had left. And often that's when I do my paperwork, because sometimes when there's 5 or 6 volunteers running around, I'm just running around right after them, keeping them all busy. I don't have time to sit at my desk. So paperwork time for me is after everyone goes home and it's quiet. So I'd bring my charts and whatever, and I would just sit on the ground in Lurch's enclosure with the other birds. And most of them could care less that I was in there, but Lurch was kind of curious about what's this weird human doing. And he often would come over and kind of hang out with me and pull at the papers in my charts and stuff. And so I started giving him pieces of paper, and he loved shredding it. And that evolved into making paper airplanes and tossing them for him across the cage, and he'd chase after them. On foot, of course, because he doesn't fly. Lurch has had an injury to his humerus, and that's the same bone as you and I have. It's that big bone between the shoulder and the elbow. He fractured that, and the bone didn't heal the proper shape. So Lurch can't fly or soar anymore. So that's why he was with us. So he'd chase after them and tear them up. And so over time, we just built up a really great rapport. And I've always just, when I'm having a bad time or don't know what to do about something, I just have a great conversation with Lurch. And he has excellent insights into things, so we enjoy it. So he wanted me to share today some insights about what's happening with birds and wildlife out there this summer that maybe people aren't always aware about, but there are some really simple things that you can do to help them out. So for example, one huge hazard that we have here at the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center is we are located right on our river campuses on the banks of the Arkansas River, and it is just a beautiful spot for people to, ooh, man, does he have bad breath. Anyway, it's a really lovely spot for people to come and, take up a picnic on our grounds, maybe go for a bike ride or walk along the river trails. And it's a really great spot for fishing. Oh my gosh, we have this huge 200-foot deck that wraps the waterfront. It's a great spot just to fish. It's handicap accessible, and a lot of people fish off that deck. There's really a great spot. There's a nice pool, and I've seen people pull like 24-inch brown trout from that pool. So we have a great urban fishing corridor here at the river campus. But sometimes along with fishing comes fishing line. And you know what? You get your line snagged, it breaks, it cuts off, whatever. Sometimes you can't access it, sometimes you can. But often we find fishing line left behind. And if you're out hiking or walking, hanging out along the river, and you spy fishing line, you know what? If it's safe for you to do so, please grab it. Please pick it up and dispose it. I know at our river campus we have tubes that you can use fishing line into that we can dispose of. But fishing line is huge for wildlife. Birds constantly get tangled up in it. We see all kinds of birds, not just big birds, but we see osprey, herons. Somebody brought us a cormorant one day that was I got a call from downstream from us at a park along the river. There was actually a flicker who was hanging 20 feet up in a tree, and his leg was just suspended. He's hanging by one leg, and he's wrapped up in fishing line. So it's a huge thing. I've seen, coyote and fox. All kinds of animals get tangled up in fishing line, and it can be the end of their life. It certainly can keep getting tighter and cut off circulation to body parts. It can prevent them from feeding properly. So it's really important to pick that all up. So that's one little way. Be careful if there's hooks on it. We don't want you to get hurt as well. But if you have the opportunity to do that, pick up the fishing line and help us get rid of it and create and remove some of that hazard from the waterways. And of course, waterways are busy places, not just for humans, but wildlife too. They're really huge areas for animals to gather and forage, especially for water and things. Another issue for people who like to hunt, lead shot is actually really bad, and Lurch especially will tell you that. Many species of animals do eat other animals, and sometimes they will scavenge animals that have been shot by hunters, because sadly sometimes the hunter isn't able to recover his animal. It may run off, get too far away, take cover, and you lose it. But birds like Lurch, eagles, all kinds of animals, foxes, you name it, lots of critters will pick up on that deceased animal and they'll forage on it. And these guys aren't picky choose their bites and eat around the lead. And sometimes actually there's no option for them to eat around the lead, because what happens when lead enters a body is it shatters, it fragments into very tiny little micro pieces. And you can't even see those pieces. But research has shown, especially when they were working on reintroducing the California condors, they did, the Peregrine Fund and lots of other agencies did extensive research on what causes lead poisoning in birds. And they did a really cool study where they invited hunters to bring in their food from the freezer. Bring in your packaged deer, elk, antelope, whatever you shot with lead. Bring it in, let's x-ray it and show you what's going on. And so they would actually put packages of hamburger or steaks or whatever into the x-ray, take an x-ray of it, and then you would just see these little scatters of lead on the meat or through the meat. And the sad thing is you're eating that. You're feeding that to your family and your children. So it's not just an issue for wildlife ingesting this lead. It's also an issue for humans. So you want to be careful, and we're encouraging hunters, if you can, you should switch your type of ammo that you're using and prevent using lead. So that's a really good way to help. Also, if you're fishing, lead sinkers are just as bad. You know, they break off, they fall to the bottom. Fish can swallow them, and then fish-eating animals can consume that lead from the fish. So there's lots of ways that lead gets into the planet, into the waterways, into the soil, into our food. So anything that we can do to try to reduce that by changing out some of our habits is very, very helpful to birds, especially Lurch. He's so cute. I just love him. Don't you just love him? He's just so much fun. I enjoy hanging out with him. He's just adorable. So just lots of things to do. Lurch. Lurch also mentioned plastic the other day. We had a little bit of soda here the other day. We're all trying to not be so bad about sugar, but we had a 6-pack of root beer one day here at the center, and Lurch noticed that it had the plastic rings holding it all together. And he wanted to remind people that be very careful with those plastic rings on your 6-pack of beverage, that you should definitely cut those to pieces. You want to cut through them so there's no circular areas, because a lot of animals sometimes might get their head through one of the circles of that can, pop container, and get their head stuck, or they might get a wing through it. We actually had an eagle come in one time that I don't know where it was foraging, but it actually came in and it had a 6-pack plastic tab from Pop stuck around its neck, and it couldn't get it off. So it can be a huge issue. Again, it can cause blood, constriction. It can cause them to prevent them from eating. They could get hung up somewhere on a branch or something. So we want to be very careful when we're wasting. So take a pair of scissors or your knife and cut through all those little holes on that plastic container holder. I know it has a name and it's just not coming to my head today, but these are kind of things that we can all do to help out wildlife. And a huge one, and I know songbird rehabbers really drive this home, but we see it too, is cat attacks on small birds. I know that I just spoke with Nancy Kelly of Second Chance Wildlife. She's a songbird rehabilitator here in Pueblo, and I was just chatting with her for a few minutes ago, and she was saying that over 50% of the birds right now in her facility have been bitten by cats. Lovers, and I am one. I have 3 cats. I have 2 at home and 1 here at the Raptor Center, Marcus. He's lovely. Someday I should bring him out and introduce you to him. Anyhow, keep them indoors. Cats really, I know, put a bell on them if they're outside, do something that makes noise to alert birds to their present. But cats, both domestic and as well as feral, do huge injuries to wild birds and other wildlife as well. So it's really important, if you have kitties, try your best to keep them indoors. Mine are inside all the time, and they don't seem to care at all that they're stuck inside. Just provide lots of entertainment for them. And believe me, my 120-pound Newfoundland is definitely something that keeps them on their toes. So do be careful and conscious of what your cat's doing. He doesn't really need to hunt, even though it's his instinct, but because he's hurting wildlife and he's usually not eating what he's killing. So cats will just do hunting for entertainment. So those are some huge things. What's happening at the Raptor Center this week? Well, we saw a lot of birds leave. Yay! That's a happy thing for us. Sadly, we didn't get any good videos of the birds going, but I got some some of the volunteers have, I noticed in my email this morning, have sent me some pictures, so I'll try to get those posted up on Facebook. We had a turkey vulture return to the wild over in Canyon City. He'd been with us about a month. He got probably struck by a car, didn't have any fractures, just some bruising. He was really sore for a couple of weeks, limping around, feeling really bad. But once it healed up the soft tissue injuries, he was feeling great and flying like a champ in the flight enclosure. So we sent him back to Canyon City with some volunteers. We also returned a Mississippi kite to the wild. He came to us from Rocky Ford about a month ago, had hit something with his legs, and his legs had all kinds of wounds and cuts and bruising on them, and he didn't want to stand up. He just sort of laid there because he's like, my feet and my legs hurt. I am not standing up. Don't ask me to. So we didn't. We just made him a big nest and kept him comfortable, and he didn't want to do much with his legs and feet for about 10 days. And then we noticed his toes were starting to grip, and one day he was up on one foot but still limping. So after that all healed up again, he also has returned to the wild. They said he flew away like a rocket. So that's why they couldn't get any video. He left the crate so fast they couldn't even capture it. It was great. And then we also sent back a barn owl down to Lamar, Colorado. She was hanging out in an air conditioning unit on top of a big building. And when they turned it on, she got spooked and, of course, and left it. She was probably trying to nest inside that unit because barn owls are cavity nesters. She just came to us with some lacerations, but she healed up quickly, and they took her back to Lamar the other night as well. And then one more bird that's going this week is a tiny little member of the bird of prey group, a flammulated owl. He came in with a fracture of the ulna about 4 weeks ago. It's all healed up. He's flying like a cute little large mosquito in his enclosure, and he came from Rye, Colorado. So I'm going to wander him back up in the next night or two to get him back into the wild. So it's really great. Coming in this week, a couple of great horned owls with wing injuries. We got in yesterday. We got in a young red-tailed hawk. Some people found it down in a park, and they said it couldn't fly away, which is typical for young birds. They do leave the nest before they can fly, and often they're just on the ground, and that's what they do. And people find them at that point, and these people were really concerned because he just sat there and they didn't know what to do, so they brought him in, and that's okay. We examined him, nothing wrong. In fact, he had just eaten. Mom had just been there to feed hawks and eagles, falcons. Their esophagus has a kind of a stretchy part. We call it a crop right here in the throat. And so when they eat, they can eat a lot of food quickly, and they just sort of, it's like a storage tank. It just fills up with food. And his brought in for dinner, he gorged. And so he'd just eaten. He was looking healthy and beautiful. There was a little bit of a storm coming in, so we held on to him for a little bit to make sure we didn't put him back out into the storm. But after the storm, volunteer took him back to the park where he was found, and put him up in the tree. And I'm sure Mom found him. She was probably roosting nearby because the people did say that there was a hawk in the air screaming at them when they picked up the chick. So yeah, Mom was not happy that her child was being kidnapped. So that was a successful reunion. So we were really happy about that. And then you just never know what's coming in your door. This morning, part of the reason we got a late start this morning, so thank all of you guys that were being patient with us, waiting for us to, believe it or not, we got in a cockatiel this morning. Not a bird of prey at all. Some people were out, enjoying the beautiful morning at Mineral Palace Park in Pueblo, and they found this beautiful cockatiel down on the ground, very weak, lethargic, not moving very much, and they of course didn't want to leave it there. They didn't know where to take it, so they did bring it to us. We're guessing he's such a sweet little guy. He like curled up. He just like crawled up my shirt and went under my hair. I was like, oh my gosh, you were just the cutest thing ever. Don't get any ideas, Lurch. Anyway, we have him on fluids, and we're warming him up. His body's temperature's a little bit low. He's in a little bit of shock, so we're treating him. We talked with Nancy Kelly. She also has a lot of parrots and cockatiels that she has just personally as pets, so she's very skilled at dealing with them. So she gave us some advice on getting him going, and a couple of our volunteers are going to take him home for the night. But if you're on Facebook and you know of any animal lost and found groups in the Pueblo area, and would be happy to share those with us, we're happy to take a picture of him later today and get him out on Facebook, so maybe we can reunite him with his owner. It's possible that this person maybe was on their porch or their balcony with the bird, and something spooked it and it flew off, because it is fully flighted. Its wings are not clipped to prevent it from flying off, so we definitely like to get him back to his owner if we can. If not, no worries. We have volunteers here that all have said they would be very happy to give him a home. So you just never know what's coming in the doors here at the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center. And that's part of our job, is to try to help people connect with others who can help. We don't mind the phone calls about bears or mountain lions. We can redirect you to or Colorado Parks and Wildlife, the agencies that can help you do that. That's part of what we do as wildlife rehabilitators, and we want to get help for animals, even domestic animals. Sometimes we'll make calls around to see if we can help someone find a home for something else. We certainly know those people and can refer you. So we're happy to be a resource for the public to deal with animals. And then there's also a great resource if you have a smartphone, or you can download a really wonderful app called Animal Help Now. And actually it was started here in Colorado, but it's still based in Colorado, but it covers the whole nation. And it is a great format for finding help for animals, either domestic or wild, for help. So it's really great when you go in, when you open up the app, if your GPS is on, it'll say, hey, I think you're here. Or if you don't want to do the GPS, you can just put in an address, and that and click wildlife or domestic, and it'll pop up resources in your area, what's available for you to do that. So I would encourage you, if you're someone that wants to help animals, to look into that app and possibly downloading it. I know it's on my phone, and I'm working on encouraging my volunteers to do the same with it to help people get wildlife. So Lurch looks like he is ready to go find some sun and and do a little sunbathing. Oh, he's doing his yoga stretches for you now. He's starting to get bored, so he's just gonna bow down and do some stretching. It's fun to watch him stretch. He's very, very well balanced. He has a great sense of balance. He's much better at yoga than I am. So there he goes. Oh, there we go. He's doing his wing stretch. There we go. Nice Lurch. Wonderful. See, I'm not paying enough attention to him, so he has to show off to all of you. So yeah, you're gonna do, what else are you gonna do for us? Anything? He's just adorable. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Kind of a short little hello and what's going on at this center. We are working on reopening the Raptor Center. There are some modifications we need to make to our public spaces so that we can appropriately social distance people when they do come to visit with us. So we're working on that, and we're hoping around July 10th that we'll be able to open back up and allow visitors in. And we're still waiting on a few things to happen so that we can post the protocols for visitors coming, because we want everyone to be safe. We don't want that nasty little virus coming back up with a with a vengeance and making us all shut down and cause us all more headache and grief. So be safe out there, practice your social distancing, wear your mask when you're out in public to protect others, and of course ultimately protecting yourself. Fortunately for me, Lurch doesn't have problems with coronavirus, so yay, I don't have to wear my mask when I'm hanging out with him, but I'm certainly doing it when I'm with my volunteers. So until we'll see what we can come up with for Sunday's talk. Maybe something exciting will happen today that we can talk about tomorrow. Be safe, be well, and you all have a really great day. Thanks.